as well to answer questions in specific areas. Ebony, do we have a PowerPoint that we're going to go through and discuss the slides? But also, as she's preparing that, I want to make sure that we understand why we're here and be very clear about this. We are not announcing a reopening plan right now. We are updating the public and the press on our progress toward creating a reopening plan. Those plans are still in the subcommittee and committee areas right now, and we're working on that. We just had a great turnout for report out of subcommittee work with various recommendations moving forward. There's still more work to do as we begin to really solidify exactly what our plans will be in the fall. So our agenda today, of course, I'm doing the welcome right now. We'll discuss summer learning with our Chief of School Performance, Dr. David May Stein. Choices for families, that'll come back to me. Building capacity, that's our Chief Operations Officer, Pamela Capretta. Our CARES funding and overview of that from our Chief Financial Officer, Ronald Joseph. And an all-in update from our Chief of Staff, Erica Fearby-Jones. And there'll be time for questions at the end, I'm sure. But if there are a multitude of questions, please put your questions in the comments box. And I think Ebony is going to actually read those questions. Is that correct, Ebony? Ebony, you still there?
Yes, I can't. I'm here.
Yes. Okay. Is that correct? I'm going to answer the questions. Questions are placed in the comment box.
That's correct. That's correct.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's move forward in the slide deck.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for being with us today. I'm very excited to share some information about our summer learning opportunities so far for this year. For summer learning opportunities, we have 3 primary programs that include our Summer Dreamers Academy, our Learn and Earn summer program, and our Brain Booster program. If you recall, our Summer Dreamers refers to and support students kindergarten through 5th grade. Our Learn and Earn program is for students in 8th and 9th grade. And our Brain Booster program will be for students in 10th and 11th grade. As we're looking at our summer learning opportunities, there are 7 areas of focus that we're looking at that include enrollment and attendance, curriculum, academic instruction, enrichment, technology, culture, and communication. It's our goal as we continue to learn as much as we can about remote learning, that we continue to use lessons learned, not just from the period of March to June, but also during July, so that we can be as informed as possible to deliver the best experience to students, no matter what our return to school plan looks like. So far for this year, in our overall summer learning experience, we have a total of 723 kids that enrolled in the Summer Dreamers Academy, the Learn and Earn, and the Brain Booster program. We're very excited that we got this amount of students interested in continuing remote learning throughout the summer. We're also very excited as, again, we're learning what remote learning looks like, that we're able to have 20 enrichment partners that are doing different activities with our students as part of their experience. As the enrichment part of the program, we were able to deliver specific materials to each student so that they're able to participate remotely in various enrichment activities. We are definitely in a learning mode, and we're assessing every week each one of these focus areas so that we can one, course correct where need be, and two, take these lessons forward so that we're able to maximize what we've learned when we return to school this fall. Thank you very much, Dr. Hamlet.
Thank you, Dr. Maystein. And next, we're all in with Ms. Fairby Jones.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hamlin. I think we're going to have our next slide is going to be yours to talk about the choice for families.
Okay. So our all-in plan, I'm sure you're familiar with our all-in plan, where we created five committees with 14 subsequent subcommittees that are actually working on the plans and providing recommendations for the executive staff as we begin to solidify our plans and then present that to the board to be voted on. One of the things I want to highlight is that this is unprecedented right now, the number of individuals that have been involved in this process. We've had over 300 actual participants in our committee work. We've had about 40 parents, about 70 PFT members and teachers, 53 different organizations around the city, over 100 PPS staff in various roles that are actually volunteering their time to really lend their expertise, their ideas, and their efforts toward making sure that we have the most robust and supportive reopening plan that we can for our students and faculty and staff. That's paramount. One of the things I want to say that's very important to us, very, very important to us, is making sure that our students, our faculty and staff are safe, and subsequently their families are safe moving back. And if you haven't been tracking the CDC, they've actually came out with some additional more stringent recommendations right now. And so having the public and the press understand as we get these guidelines, our possible plans that we may present once they're solidified may change based on the new CDC guidelines. And so we're ready to pivot and be fluid as fluid as possible in that space to make sure that we provide education, regardless if it's a brick and mortar, blended, or either online version. And so this is the concept. I've been talking about this from the very beginning. We will have a definite online full-time e-learning presence because we will be at one-to-one capacity at that point. One-to-one is making sure that all of our students and also our teachers as well have laptops and one-to-one devices to make sure they can access the internet as well and actually be taught in a synchronous mode. And then the in-school model is blended. There are no specifics to that right now, but like I said, I've been talking about this from the very beginning. There'll be some type of blended model, but we haven't put those details to that model yet. That's forthcoming. The committees are still doing that work, and we don't want to say anything that's going to be contrary to what recommendations we get. And so that'll be coming soon.
And I think the main thing about this slide, what we were trying to do here, Dr. Hamlin, is make sure that families have a choice. For those families, go ahead.
No, you're right. And one of the things we really want to stress is that we know, based on things we hear, emails we get from families, the social media, that even if we had a brick and mortar option, a blended option, that some parents just do not want to send their children back to brick and mortar school. They'd rather them be online. So again, we're giving parents that choice, but also we'll be sending out information to ask the parents, what is your choice right now? Because we truly need to begin to plan for how many students will actually be fully online and will not be returning to our buildings. So this is about choice for families. You have options. So is this me or is this Ms. Capretta? I think this is Ms. Capretta.
Yes, it's Ms. Capretta. Hi, Pam Capretta, Chief Operations Officer. So as always, the health and safety is our greatest priority, not only for our students, but also for our staff as well. Many of our parents, teachers, and staff have had concerns about the school environment and COVID, and we are definitely addressing those issues. Currently, we are in the process of doing school layouts to identify social distancing within every one of our educational spaces. We had drafted a lot of that based on some CDC guidelines, and then recently those guidelines were changed to be more restrictive over the last day or two. So we are again adjusting those. We will provide those to our principals, and we will work with our principals to schedule classes accordingly. We are also purchasing disinfectant and cleaning solutions to provide in numerous ways, whether it be on our buses, in our classrooms, cleaning our musical instruments, desks. We have also placed orders for what we call three-sided desk shields that hopefully we will be able to use in our brick and mortar in the case where a teacher would have to have a more close contact or one-on-one with our student, so there could be a divider in front of those. We are purchasing PPE for not only our students, but our staff. That includes gloves, masks, sanitizers. We are making sure that all our existing sanitizing stations are repaired, fixed, and filled, as well as improving all our bathroom spaces and making sure everything is working. And we are also addressing the needs of our at-risk students as well. And we will also provide appropriate cleaning supplies as well as instructions on how to use those supplies appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capretta. Next up is Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Ronald Joseph, to discuss CARES funding.
Thank you. So this is just a quick update on our proposed plan for utilizing the CARES funding that we will receive from the federal government. So we know that our strategy for utilizing this fund is one of assuring that we're taking the appropriate steps to be prepared for the reopening of school in the fall. One of those areas of focus is technology. So ensuring that students have the technology necessary to participate in instruction, but also that teachers, our staff, have the technology necessary to provide that instruction. So we're working through different options on what the reopening of school would look like, as Dr. Hamlet stated, but we just want to be sure that we have the appropriate technology to provide instruction and support our students. And in addition to that, we know that professional development is going to be a key area of focus. The environment that we're going to be going into the fall is going to be new for a lot of our staff. It's probably going to be a departure from what we did in the spring with remote learning. So providing our staff with the necessary professional development to thrive and be able to provide the appropriate instruction in that environment. Thank you, Dr. Hamlet.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. So, Ms. Fairby Jones, is this you up next with the all-in open for our schools?
Yes, sir. I know that you're going to talk about the goals of this initiative, in regards to one of the things that we learned as we had to react to COVID and the school closure, that we did that sort of as a top-down design. And what All In is really about is really making sure that we expand our education community. And as Dr. Hamlet said, we had significant participation from various role groups. And this is unique in regards to how we did this, because we actually took time and set aside time for people to join us and give us their best thinking. So building off the expertise of our education community that even included students, all the way to teachers and PFT representation, and also families and our board members. So we really did a sort of, instead of a top-down, a grassroots up approach to the opening of schools. And Dr. Ham, I know you wanted to talk about the goals of the initiative, I think. You're on mute.
You go ahead. I mean, I think overall the goals, and number one, it's important for us to understand what this was about. This was about garnering ideas and the focus around making sure that we gain recommendations for the reopening of school. Some things that we're getting in from our recommendations are aspirational, and we'll have to filter through that information to make sure that we get down to the level and begin to look at those ones that really focus on the opening of school and what that means for our students, our faculty and staff, and our families and communities as well. So the overall goal, again, was about reopening, making sure that we're inclusive of our community. And as Erica said, when this first happened, we were automatically shut down. And having conversations with our board, we were tasked with moving forward as fast as possible to put some remote learning in place. So it was a different scenario at that point. With more time, we're always inclusive and want to make sure that all of our community members, our teachers, as much as we can, our faculty and staff, our parents, our students, are inclusive in our decision-making process and kind of guide us and give us recommendations moving forward. Ms. Jones?
Yep, and just to give you an overview of our timeline, we definitely started this again with being inclusive. We reached out to our parents to get some information around what was your thinking, what worked well, what didn't work well in regards to our first stab at remote learning. And then we moved into presenting that information to the board. The committees that we put together was over 14 subcommittees, and those 14 subcommittees had over 300 people participating in them. So representing each group, each stakeholder group for Pittsburgh Public Schools. Yesterday, the subcommittee chairs and co-chairs presented all of their recommendations to us. It took over 4 hours to get through all of those recommendations. And so we went through that. And now what we're going to be doing is, as an executive cabinet, is taking all those recommendations and figuring out, as Dr. Hamlet said, which things are helping us definitely to open schools, what are those goals that are aspirational, and sort of categorizing that work as we move forward. On this Tuesday, so as Dr. Hamlet said at the beginning of the this press briefer, is that this is not about the release of the plan. However, there are some key dates that the public can expect us to be releasing plans. On July 14th, we're going to have the draft version of that plan. And we're actually going to present that back out to those over 300 people who gave us those recommendations. So the 14th is a key date where we will actually have, next Tuesday, we'll have a draft of that plan. On the 22nd, that work, let me just say this, the work of the committees will inform two places. The first place that it will inform is the state requires us to have a safety plan, that we cannot open our buildings unless we have that safety plan approved by our board and then submitted to the state. So on July 22nd, the board will actually be approving that safety plan that allows us to open up schools. It's very specific to safety. It does have some academic components to it, but actually on August 4th, we'll be able to have even another opportunity to present to the public. So the 14th is the draft plan. The 22nd, the board is approving the safety plan as needed by the state to open. And on the 4th, we're going to have another opportunity to communicate to the public to let them know the broader vision of where we're going. For some, this might seem like a little bit of they want more information as soon as possible, but it was really important that we heard from our key stakeholders to make sure that we're informed in this work and the board has the best information to make their decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, if anyone has questions, we do have, I did get one question. If you have questions, you can please include them in the chat. You did touch upon this a little, and Erica, is when the time comes, they were asking, when can we expect the announcement for fall opening plans, which I think you just hit that. And what do we know now about what will definitely be different for students?
So we gave those key dates. The 14th, there will be a presentation that people can be able to watch on our draft plan that we'll be presenting back to the public. To the subcommittees and to our board. The 22nd is when the board will actually be voting on that plan, and then the 4th we'll have another opportunity to communicate again publicly. I think Ms. Capretta talked about something in her presentation around what would be different. Two things. One is Dr. Hamlet said that this week we're gonna start communicating to families around who, no matter what we do, no matter what safety precautions we put in place, what families are not going to return because they just have various concerns or various health issues that will not allow them to return. So that's going to be a key of families saying we want to have 100% online. So that would be something that's different where families are choosing to do 100% offline. The second thing, going back to Ms. Capretta, she talked about some of those shields that would be in place. She talked about, routines around hand sanitizing, routines and rituals that we'll have in place to keep students safe. We know that students there will be a blended version. That will be different. So there will be some we're planning for some brick and mortar instruction, but also will be coupled with online or e-learning as we move forward. So what will be different is every day students will not be in the classroom because of the guidelines. And Ms. Capretta said that those guidelines are even more strict. Were just released this last couple of days.
Okay, and this next one would be for Ms. Capretta. Some insight, can you provide any details on what considerations we are making related to student transportation?
So yes, so we will be having, we are recommending that each student sit one to a seat. We are currently in the process of drafting our routes to include that students would be one in a seat. We are also providing our bus companies with the chemicals, disinfecting, cleaning solutions, as well as a way to deliver that, whether it be a spray bottle, a backpack, such as that.
Thank you. That was Pamela Capretta, our Chief Operations Officer. Our next question is, what is the level of concern from the district about federal dollars being withheld if there's not a full reopening in the fall?
Oh, wow. We definitely knew this question would be coming in light of President Trump's announcement yesterday. So hopefully that doesn't occur. If it does occur, that would be unprecedented. Say that we're actually our financial officer to find out and also provide to the board exactly how much federal funding we're getting, and especially federal funding comes in the space of IDEA grants for special education, your Title I, your Title 9, things of that nature, your entitlement grants. So traditionally, of a district's budget, traditionally, federal dollars make up maybe 7 to 10, 11% of that budget. But we're working on specifics to make sure our board understands that as well, because again, we're taking everything that we can, and we want to make preparations just in case this happens. But making sure we understand the administration and board, we're going to do what's the safest for our faculty and staff, our students, and our families. Because ultimately, what happens is that if you have students that come to school, they go home, they live with their grandparents. Now you're exposing their grandparents to potentially getting COVID. So we got to think about all these things. And I know, and I don't want to say that this is what Washington is doing, but hopefully we're not trying to barter or broker our safety of our students, our faculty and staff in our community to reopen the economy.
Wait. Somebody about to say something? Okay. Also, just want to stress and just reiterate that we are asking families who would like to have full online e-learning to let us know by visiting our website at pghschools.org/all-in. And they can find information there, but we really need to know, it will really help with planning if we know how many families are selecting full-time online learning. Dr. Dwyer, can you please give us an update on where we are with technology?
Yes, ma'am. So for making sure that all of our students and our staff are ready for instruction, we will be one-to-one at the beginning of the year. Our Chromebooks will be coming in sometime in the next month, and we put in an order based on the CARES funding for technology so that we can get to that one-to-one level, so that all 32,000 of our students, including pre-K students, will have devices that are developmentally appropriate. We're also working on making sure that all of our staff have devices so that all of our teaching staff have devices so that they can provide appropriate instruction virtually and in person.
Thank you. Any additional questions? A little wait time. What? Okay, so that seems like that's all the questions that I have from anyone. So I thank you so much for joining us. This will be available online later. And thank you everyone.
Thank you, folks. We appreciate it.
Okay. Student told me this. Is this for everybody, Ms. Falls? Okay, student told me that she had not seen her teacher all through this period.
So I would say we can't verify that because we don't know the student and the school and situation. If you can send me an email on that, Ms. Falls, I'll make sure that we begin to flesh it out. Exactly the specifics on it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.